Good evening. I'd like to call the public hearing of the Liberty Elementary School District public hearing to order today, May 13, 2025 at 5:30, the Jerry Roby District Facility. 5 board members, Member Zimmerman, Board Member Schmidt, Board Member Cincioni, Vice President Kenyon. Mr. Cincioni, if you could please lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. For the record, President Michael Todd, also present, attending virtually tonight due to an unscheduled event that took place. My apologies for not being there ahead of time for the retirees. I am regretful for not being able to make it in person tonight. With that, we'll open up our public hearing. Item 1.3, information discussion of fiscal year 2024-25 annual expenditure budget revision. This will be presented by Ms. Crystal Mosier, our accountant, and Rebecca Williams, our business consultant.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members and community members. We have a presentation, so I want to make sure, is it up for everyone to be able to see? Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and get started. We've got a full house tonight. I appreciate you all being here. Okay, so first, what I wanted to go over is a little bit of background. So we have some information on our screens regarding the different funds that we have available as a district. So some of our funds are restricted funds and some of them are unrestricted. We've got a lot of funds that are designated for very specific purposes. Some of those being grants, which are also application based. So I put a few examples of different funds that we have available. Like our biggest budget controlled fund would be our M&O operations fund. And then some of our cash control funds are examples like our auxiliary, our tax credit monies, our student activities funds, things like that. So I just wanted to give a little background on that. And then basically our M&O and capital funds are driven by our state legislature. Our overrides, our bonds, our adjacent ways, those are all taxpayer-driven funds. Most of our grants are governed by the Department of Education, but a lot of them do filter through the federal government. So we do have some requirements that we're upheld with those standards on those grants. And then again, those cash-controlled funds that I talked about, a lot of those would be used for things like one-time purchases, and they're kind of designated for specific things. So what I wanted to get into was the reason that we're bringing this revision before you tonight. State statute allows for school districts to revise their budget in May. The deadline is May 15th for the current fiscal year. This is a very common practice. Actually, almost every school district in Arizona is going through the same process right now, bringing this before their boards, usually in early May, to get everything done by the deadline. This is our final opportunity to capture all of our additional budget capacity before this year is over. So some of the reasons that here at Liberty, while we're doing it, is that we want to capture additional budget capacity in M&O. And I'll go into more specifics, but M&O, our additional capacity right now is right around 1.5 million. And then we want to reduce our capacity in capital. So that's going to be reduced by about 2 million. Those are the specific reasons why we're doing it as a district. So some of the other areas, the reason that we're doing it mostly is to capture our additional capacity for ADM. So I put an example of what we've had in our average daily membership over the last couple fiscal years. This information comes from our BSA 55 report, which is published by ADE. So we used the most recent available report for this May revision, which gave us data through March 15th. So this captures all of our ADM through the 100th day of school. This year, We now have ADM at 4,271. So that's about 69 additional students from last year about this time. Just as a point of reminder, kindergarten students count as half. Preschool students do not count in our ADM. The tuition-based preschool students do not count in our ADM numbers. Okay. Also, another point of reminder, if our ADM is to change, which it does usually monthly, those additional capacities will be added into our budget next year, since this is our final revision for this year. Okay, the screen has quite a few numbers, so I hope you all can read it, but this gives a little more of a summary of exactly what's changing. So we are adjusting our revenue control limit due to additional capacity that we got from the legislature. From our adopted budget to now our revised, we're able to capture an additional $1 million there. We're also able to capture an additional roughly $65,000 because of our override budget limit. Carry forward, this is where we're really able to capture exactly what our carry forward was from last year. So that brings our change down a little bit, about 270,000. And then we are also updating for the Prop 123 funding that we were able to receive. So that's an additional $3,000. And then we're going ahead and taking care of the DAA transfer that we've been discussing of $700,000 to move that from our capital funds into M&O. And then capital, the legislature and all the different changes, our capacity went down in that area, so to 3.2 million, and then we are transferring that 700,000. So that's where we get the reduced capacity of just over $2 million. Okay, so some upcoming budget reminders. In June, we will be bringing the proposed budget for FY26. In July, that's when we do adopted. So between June and July, there cannot be any changes to the budget. Whatever we propose is what needs to be adopted. That will need to be done by July 15th. And then a good practice that we've decided going forward is to bring that December revision. So when the set for December, we'll have that included on the meeting. May revision for next year will happen. In August, we're going to start monthly budget so that the budget can be reviewed, expenses can be reviewed, encumbrances can be reviewed on a more monthly basis, and it can be in front of you for discussion at any point in time. So I would like to open it up now for questions.
Vice President Kenyon, I'll ask you to preside over this part and you can control the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Member Schmidt, do you have any questions?
Not right now, thank you.
Member Zimmerman?
I do. So we'll go ahead and start with the presentation, and then I'd like to open up the actual revision. So if we could go to the slide with the, comparing the adopted to the revised. So can you explain, how we got that extra $1 million? What, different things went into that?
Yes. So in our M&O fund, both of our M&O and capital fund, some of the changes are at the legislature. So when we adopted in July, we adopted on forms that were used from last year's budget. That's also a very common practice because the legislature is notorious for waiting to the last minute. We have to adopt by July 15th. So a lot of times we're adopting on forms from last year. So everything is calculated for last year's numbers. So that's one of the biggest changes, is that this is our first opportunity that we've adopted now on the new forms and captured all of those new formulas and all of that money that the legislature decided was going to be the budget for us for 2025. The other portion of it is our ADM changes. So when I talked about 69 students being added, that's about, I think I wrote that number down. Oh, yes. Roughly $345,000 from those students, because each student we obtain is about $5,013. So that's the biggest changes on this slide.
Okay, and so, so basically we had $1 million more to spend than we budgeted for originally. And we essentially spent that money that we didn't know we were going to have when we adopted the budget in July.
Well, we're bringing the budget now to capture all of our capacity, all of our budget capacity. That doesn't mean it's spent yet. We're just adopting the new budget for the most amount of money that we're eligible to receive.
Okay, and so what is the expected carry forward for M&O?
So as of right now, we gave a projection. I believe in April we discussed about $500,000 for M&O.
Okay, so if we're transferring $700,000 from capital to M&O, if we had not made that transfer, that means that we would have been in the negative $200,000, correct? In M&O.
It essentially means that we would have had to transfer items to other sources, or we would have had to reduce our expenses near the end of the year.
Right, which we did, correct? I mean, that we've been trying to do that since February when this, came to light.
Correct.
Okay, so, and then with the capital, we are reducing the capacity by $2 million. And a lot of that is because we made that 700,000 of that is because we're moving it to M&O. But when I looked at the fund balance sheet, it seems that we thought we were going to have $1 million more in carry forward that we didn't end up having. So my question is, going forward, how can we ensure, because the adopted budget happened in July, which means that the fiscal year was over. So how can we change our practices to ensure that we know how much we've spent at the end of the year? Because the difference of $1 million after the year is over seems like a big number.
Well, you have to remember that the data that goes into the July adoption is captured prior to that. So June 30th is the end of the fiscal year, but that doesn't mean that the activity stops. There are still purchase orders that are in place at the end of the year that are being paid all the way through August. So when we adopt, a lot of those numbers are estimates. So we do our very best to estimate items that are going to be spent, but sometimes during the summer, especially with a lot of construction projects going, POs do come in, very last minute because of projects that come up for the summertime.
But those should be planned, right? I mean, we should know what the projects are going to be. Unless an emergency happens, of course.
It really depends. I mean, especially with new school construction. I mean, I think Bob could speak to this a little bit more, but a lot of things last year we were waiting on other people. We were waiting on things for the land. We were waiting on the construction company. We were waiting on a lot of things to line up. And then as soon as that was ready to go, we had to hit the ground to make the August 2025 open date for Loretta Zumbro. So that's a big portion of it.
Okay. If we could open up the revision and go to page 2, please. Or page 1, I apologize. So I know it's going to be hard. So I'm going to blow, if you could, in the back, if you could blow up, I'm going to be looking at the average teacher salary. It's at the bottom.
The bottom right.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you so much. So I appreciate you guys providing the information earlier about how this is calculated. So I did do the average from the contracts that were issued in board docs. And so with the $8,000 classroom site fund, I can see where the average comes from. My question, however, is in the AG spending report, it says that the average teacher salary is $67,000, which when they did the report or when they did the presentation, they said that was self-reported. So how are those numbers so different?
So what they mean when they say self-reported is that they get the data off of our annual financial report, which is done every October. So there are different areas on that form where you have to include your base pay for teachers, your stipends for teachers, your Prop 301 money or performance pay for your teachers. So what they used when they captured that data is they took all of our salaries, including stipends and everything. That's not what we do internally as a district, because stipends are never, it's not an average. Not every single person gets a stipend. They're all individual type items, especially things like coaching or clubs. Those aren't a guarantee every year, and not everybody does them. So when we calculate average teacher salary, we use base salaries for teachers, and then we use their classroom site fund money, or more commonly known as their Prop 301 money, because those are items that all teachers get. As long as you worked for that year and you completed your contract, you're gonna get that amount of money. So we use those numbers, and then we basically just divide by the number of teachers, and that's the average for that fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you. If we could go to page 2. So this is, I apologize, page 3. This is the M&O spending, and I just have a couple, I guess, comments. You know, my concern is that when we go into fiscal year 26 and we're looking at this revision, I feel like it's really important for the district to keep in mind that we did do a lot of kind of cost-saving measures for the last 3 months. And so if we're not careful and we take this revision and kind of try to formulate our budget for 26, we're automatically going to put ourselves over, because we're not necessarily going to be making those same cuts. So just for example, the general administration line, you know, that's basically district office staff. Okay, so we didn't have an assistant superintendent of educational services for half the year. And so, you know, if you calculate that with her benefits, it's between $70,000 and $90,000. So if we hire for that position, we're automatically going to be over in fiscal year 26. So, you know, it's just kind of a comment in terms of the concern I have in terms of using this. And as we go forward, as we get to other pages, other funds that we've paid different things out of, I just think we have to keep that in mind, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I also think it's important that I spent a lot of time looking at the adopted budget that we did in July versus the revision. And so for the general administration, the plan was to cut about $90,000 from last year, but the district didn't cut any district level positions. So had Mrs. Camp not left in the middle of the year, we wouldn't have been able to have that savings. And so I think it's important when we say we're going to cut things, and I think that this board, we've done a better job with the, you know, prioritization, but we have to know how the cuts are going to happen and what that's going to look like. The other thing that I'm quite concerned about on this one is the operation of the plant. In fiscal year 24, as it states up there, we spent $4.4 million on the plant, the maintenance and operation of the plant. I apologize. And in the adopted budget, so in July, you know, the district and the board, I assume, looked at that and said, ooh, that's a lot of money. And they had planned to cut that to $3 million. They had made a basically 1.4 cut. But the problem is that cut didn't happen. We actually spent $4.6 million in the revision. So essentially the entire, you know, additional capacity that we got was spent on the maintenance and operation of the plant. And so for me as a board member, as we move forward, it's important to me that we look at how we can use additional captured budget capacity to support students and their learning. And, you know, when I looked at the budget prioritization and the things that we cut, the 2.3, well, I don't know that we actually cut all the way to 2.3, maybe 2.1, you know, only about 350,000 of that had to do with the maintenance of the plant. So that meant, 1.6 of that is cuts to students and cuts to teachers. And so I'd really like the board to think about that as we move forward. If we could go on to page 7, please. So page 7 is about capital spending, including bond and school facilities board. So I noticed that the change in the bond spending for construction services, so line 4, it's up 1.7 from the adopted budget. So we're spending 1.7 million more dollars from our bond on construction services. My question is, which project essentially is over budget and the need to spend the additional bond money on construction?
Well, I don't have a specific answer on an exact construction project, but one of the things that we do when we go through a revision is we do look at our expenses as a whole, and we kind of reallocate things where they've actually been spent. So even though at the beginning of the year, we might have put certain dollar amounts in some of the other areas, our projects ended up being more of general constructions than some of the other specific areas. That's a lot of that is account code structure and accounting processes that originally we kind of put the budget in this area, knowing that when purchase orders started coming through, they're going to actually be coded with the correct coding to the right places, if that makes sense.
It does. The other kind of concern I had looking, and I hear what you're saying, because overall the difference between the adopted budget and the revision for bond spending is about 500,000. And so when we're talking about 17 million, 500,000 isn't as a significant number. I don't want to make it sound like it's not a lot of money. But, I can see that, we spent less here and spent more here. One of the things that stuck out to me was line 7, which is the furniture, and we budgeted $1 million for furniture, and I assume that was for Loretta Zumbro, and we didn't spend that yet, correct?
Correct. We have a purchase order in place for that, but because of the timing, that's actually going to be for next year, because we can't receive the items until July 1 because we need to pay for them in the new year, because that's when they're able to be delivered to the site. And we always pay in the year that we take delivery.
And, the reason that I just want the public to understand is that even though, we kind of essentially spent that money in a different category, we're still going to have to spend that additional money for the furniture, which again takes our bond money down even further. And then the adjacent ways was a big jump from the adopted to the revision. It was about 1.8. So can you talk about what happened there?
Yes. The biggest reason that you see a jump in that area is because we are capturing some capacity that we adjusted adjacent ways a couple years ago. But we're now starting to see the actual revenue from that coming in from taxes and everything. So this is now our opportunity. We're kind of doing some catch up on that one for the last 2 to 3 years to get that budget actually in line with the money that's available for adjacent ways. Just to give you a little reminder, adjacent ways, those are for things like roads, canal work. We have it kind of set aside for School 8, School 9, the transportation facility, and things that the city of Buckeye or maybe the city of Goodyear would require us to do on some of our construction projects.
Okay. Page 8 is about essentially federal funding and grants and things like that. So I just bring it to the attention to the board and to the public that overall those numbers are going down. And so, it's a different agenda item tonight about Project Momentum. So I'll save that for that agenda item. But we're just going to have to be really cognizant of, unfortunately, we're just not going to get the same amount of federal dollars. And it's not just us. I'm not saying, we're being singled out. We're not. But, we have to account for that in the budget for sure. On page 12, if you could blow it up that left hand screen. So the budgeted expenditures is that supposed to be for the prior year? See how it says prior year ADM? And if you just go straight down that column, are those budgeted expenditures supposed to be the prior year budget expenditures?
No, those are for the current year.
So the budgeted expenditures are the same as the budget limit?
Yes, and that's pretty common. We put that on our budgets.
Okay. 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 Page 13. At the bottom, it's talking about proposed staffing. And my question, it says 194 teachers for general education, but then on the M&O page 3, it says FTEs. It's 204 or 206. I'd have to go back to that page. I apologize, I didn't write that down. Do you know why that is different there?
Where do you see? Oh, I do see now. Okay.
And then on page 3, line item 1 for the FTEs, it says 206. And it's broken out on the M&O one for special education too. So I know that those aren't combined, but.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that reminder. So on page 1, it includes some of our other staff members, not just teachers. So in instruction, you also have paraprofessionals. They're part of our instruction function group. So on that other page, that labels just teacher staff.
Okay. Okay. And then I was hoping that you guys would be able to pull up the fund balance sheet. That's part of the workbook, both for the adopted budget and the revision, because I think it's important for us to look at.
I don't know that Tech has that page available because it wasn't part of the documents and board docs.
The adopted budget would be on our website under budget, and you.
Oh, I'm sorry, the adopted?
If we could at least pull that part up, and then I, printed out the revision that I can speak to, but.
I did include the PDF file for the adopted budget, which says July adopted.
I don't know if it's.
I just think it's the same one from board docs in July where it doesn't have the 40 different tabs on it. It just has what we're looking at tonight.
Right, but on our website, on Liberty's website, it's there under budget.
Okay.
So if you just go to Liberty and you go to budget, it pulls up pretty quick. Adopted. And then you're going to go to the tabs at the bottom and you're going to scroll over until you see fund balance. I appreciate you guys bringing that up. So this is talking about our carry forward and what the district plans to spend of the carry forward. So in July, when we adopted the 25 budget, it's reported that the district said that we had, at the end of 23, we had a fund balance of $4 million that we're carrying forward. And then if you look at number 4, it says fiscal year 24 estimated ending fund balance details and planned uses. So A, there's no fund deficit. B, fund balance exceeding budget capacity. In budget controlled funds, 0. Plan to be spent in fiscal year 25, 0. So the district said that they did not plan to spend that carry forward in fiscal year 25, and that they maintained what they plan to maintain for spending in fiscal year 25 was 4.2. So essentially they're saying we were going to gather 200,000 more. So then if, unfortunately, we can't pull up the revision, but for those same C, if you look at C, plan to be spent in 25, now the district says we plan to spend $3.2 million in carry forward. So they said 0 in July, and now it's saying 3.2. And then plan to be maintained for spending after fiscal year 25 is $1 million. But then at the bottom, it says that we're only going to carry forward 559,000. So my question is, I don't believe we had 3.2 in carry forward in from fiscal year 24, because according to the AG's financial risk assessment, we only had about $1 million. And so I'm just not sure how we got that number.
Okay. I see some of the areas that you're talking about on that fund balance report. This is a relatively new tab. I believe it only came up on the budget forms last year. So there's been not a lot of information from the Department of Education on how to even fill this out. So it's been a little trial and error, just to let you know on that. But the way that I read it is that some of these ending balances are through June 30th. There is still a decent amount of activity that goes through between June 30th and the end of August, including last year. We have a form called Advice of Encumbrance that we send to Maricopa County, telling them the encumbered items that we have when we end on June 30th, how much do we still have open? Last year, that was as much as $3 million. So a lot of that gets closed out for unused items, but some of it is actual. So when I read that as at June 30, that's where we were, but that wasn't the carry forward we were expecting, or that's not the amount that we actually received. No.
So also my question is then on the AFR, so that is our final 24 budget. So I pulled the AFR fund balance and it said that we would have 1.8, I'm rounding here, carry forward. So shouldn't we adjust the revision to match the AFR?
Is it on? Okay. This, even though it says maintenance and operation at the top as the column heading, there are other funds that we have that we spend like we do the maintenance and operation budget. And so it's not just M&O. If you want, I can bring next time the worksheet that I have that list all the funds included in these numbers. So they're not just those numbers for maintenance and operation, not just capital. It's all the funds that fall in those categories. Just like the spreadsheet like this has all the different things, there are more funds included there.
Yeah, and based on our discussion yesterday, and I appreciate you guys meeting with me, is that, my concern is that the district has to budget our full capacity. And so how, as a board, do we hold the district accountable to maintain a healthy reserve? Or in our case, it's going to build a reserve. And so I wasn't seeing that on the original forms. And so I think that this form can do that. And so I would really like us to truly look at this in fiscal year 26, because I think it's going to be very important for us as a board to ensure that we do build a healthy reserve as it's needed truly for bonding capacity. And so I think this form does it, but it is concerning to me as a board member that, we plan to spend 0 of the reserves and we spent 3 million. At least that's what this form is saying. So that's my comments for the revision at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Cirincione?
No questions.
Board Member Todd, do you have any questions? Sorry, President Todd.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I just, a couple things. I think there's maybe a misnomer about reserves. Reserves don't really, that's not really wording that we have. We have carry forward funds, which are essentially funds that are left over from a previous year that are carried over. And I think it's important for our finance department to kind of explain that a little bit more in detail. We really don't have in personal banking, you might have a rainy day fund or a savings account that you have sitting aside just waiting for the water heater to break or those sorts of things. We don't really have that reserve. We have some carry forward that we move from year to year, but we really spend the vast majority of money every year. Some of that carry forward also has to cover us for the next probably 3 months, I'm guessing, before the state actually starts sending us money for the new year. So although our new year starts on July 1, we don't have money from the state on July 1. Essentially, we're broke, and we have just our carryover funding to carry us through that part, which then is going to show some of that being spent. So I guess I would ask Crystal if you could maybe talk a little bit in depth about what carryover is, how much is there, but there is no reserve. When we hear the district spent their reserves, that's not, I don't know that that's completely accurate. So I think for the public's sake, it'd be better to maybe explain it, and for our sake on the board as well.
Correct. There is no fund specifically called reserve fund or anything like that. We don't have any savings accounts outside of our budget. When people typically talk about our reserves, they're talking about our budget balance carry forward. So it's whatever we didn't spend from the prior year's budget, it rolls over. Then that new year budget is basically reallocated, redistributed, and you end up with this new amount of money. So the higher you have in carry forward, the more you can add to your budget for the following year. Some of the other terms, I guess, that maybe when people reference reserves are also some of our cash-based accounts, because those are outside of our budget. We have budget capacity for our cash accounts, but they're controlled by the cash we receive, not by the budget that we have, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Also, there was some discussion on stipends and how we report our pay to the state, to the auditor. Some districts do include all those stipends in their account, which will, no doubt, if we don't do that, it will skew our reports, perhaps more accurate. Maybe it skews the other district reports, but it does show perhaps more money to those. In the last reporting, it's my understanding that we did, with our previous finance director, we did report the stipends, which is common amongst a lot of districts. Is that correct?
There are districts that do include stipends in their average teacher salary. There's not really a set rule on exactly how you have to report average teacher salary, but the basic rule of accounting is consistency. So however the district has been doing it, you should remain consistent in those processes. Our district typically has not included stipends as part of that amount. But like Mr. Todd mentioned, we have had some changes in the business manager role. So they do have a little bit of differences on how each person calculates that number.
Great. I mean, I think either way, it's fine. Our teachers do have the ability to make some money in the district, and so that's there. I think it's also important to talk, as we have construction projects, these days, it seems like bids and quotes are not always as concrete as we'd like, and no pun intended, we're talking about construction. But, the district, I think it behooves everybody to understand when we talk about adjacent ways, the district does not get impact fees like a city does. Instead, we're required to pay those costs out front. So as we look around, even back to the transportation facility, the city of Buckeye wants us to spend an exorbitant amount of money to change Liberty School Road. That's the road that runs between Liberty School and the new or the current transportation facility. Tons of money for a road that goes nowhere. So we're somewhat held hostage by cities when we have to look at adjacent ways and put work in. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to bury power lines that honestly are just fine where they're at, in my opinion. That road in the 20-year plan for Buckeye goes nowhere other than where it is today. It's a glorified driveway that's honestly just probably left over from many, many years ago when the Liberty School was the only thing on that field other than the church. So it was an access point. But I think for taxpayers to understand, when you buy a new house and you move in and there's sidewalks everywhere and everything's great, those are all accomplished by impact fees that oftentimes pay for the fire departments to come in. If you're in a new area, that fire station most likely was paid for by the developer. Conversely, that school, which is very important to the community as well, is not paid for by the developer. As we're doing construction projects now, we had to spend some money this past year, as I certainly understood it, because we didn't get enough money from the state. The state told us you need to build a new school. We're in a challenged area as one of the fastest growing communities in the state, and there's going to be ebb and flow to that. It seems like sometimes we have a no-win situation. We build a school, the houses aren't completely around it, so we don't open that school full capacity. The flip side to that is we don't build the school, the state moves on, we don't get the money later, and then we have to build a school or we're severely overcrowded. And we've seen growth. We've seen when we opened up Blue Horizons, that school took off quite quickly with population. So again, I just think it's important that we have to be ahead of the curve. We need to be looking at this. And I certainly agree with many things that Board Member Zimmerman said, to be conscious of the budget at all times. But I do think that the administration and the board has always done a good job. This district has a long history of it, of protecting the budget. But again, you got to know that as we're expanding, we have costs. It's kind of like a rubber band. It's going to stretch, and then it's going to relax, and it's going to stretch, and it's going to relax. And I think we're in one of those phases right now, that moves through. But again, I think it's very important to just understand that we're paying a lot of money. And the state told us we needed to build a school, but they only gave us about 3/4 of the money we needed. Now, as a board, we could have taken that money and built a stucco school, said there it is. But when you talk to anybody that knows about building construction, and I think Mr. Young could attest to this quickly, and any contractor, a stucco school would have probably lasted for about 5 years before there were holes through the stucco, just from balls hitting it, just from kids being kids. And then we would have gone to the taxpayer and said, well, we took all this money and we built the school the last 5 years. We have to build hardened schools that are going to last. Let's just look at the old Liberty School, how long it lasted. Let's look at other schools in our district that have lasted well over 30 years. When we're building a school, it's typically a one-time build. It's actually very rare to be able to rebuild a school like we did Liberty, and I think that's only because that school is so old. We were kind of a special case with that, and certainly our taxpayers supported the bond. Had they not done that, we would still had an archaic school there. There was no money from the state to go rebuild that school. So when we build, they've got to last forever. And as a board, we do have to make sure we have money going into our classrooms, but some of that expenditure is also making sure that we have classrooms. And I think that's important for everybody to remember.
President Todd, is that all you have to comment?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I just have one thing I would like to ask. So earlier we were talking about the ADM and how we got the revised ADM is 69 right now, and that you made a statement that that would be, you know, when this closes out the year, that's going to be what's going to be put on our total for next year, or our ADM for next year. Is that accurate? Because we went through and we did the budget priorities, and we said, you know, originally it was the administration brought 100 ADM was kind of what they were thinking for next year. We revised that down to 50 for our budget priorities. Can you just speak to that a little bit so there's a little clarity of what's going on there?
Well, districts do it a couple ways. You can keep the ADM you have right now and use that for your new year budget. Or you can add, if you were expecting, like I think we did discuss 50 new students, you can add that part of your ADM up front. That is what we've typically done. But I can also let Becky speak because she's worked for many districts, so she can say, you know, kind of the process at other districts too.
It's very scary to add students that are not here. It's much, much safer to use your actual ADM that we can get reports to prove in May when we're doing the proposed budget. And then in December, when we do the next or the first revision after the AFR is done, then we can add in the students. It's a much safer. Then you're not projecting more money than you know you have.
Yeah, thank you. And that's kind of where I was going with that was because we are projecting only 50 increase, and this is saying we're already at 69, 50 is a pretty safe number. If we were to stay there. Right, but you had stated that the 69, if we get, say it's 69, right? Because that's what we're going to be allowed for next year's budget for the ADM.
I think we'd be adding 50 on top of the 69.
Correct.
Okay, I misunderstood that then. Thank you for the clarification. You know, I know there's a lot. I mean, school finance is just, there's so much there. And I appreciate Board Member Zimmerman has a lot of questions and wants to really dive into it. What I've seen is just, especially Ms. Williams, Ms. Mosier, you guys have done an excellent job at figuring out what's all here, presenting that to us and helping us get that. And that's why you guys get paid the big bucks. So thank you for all that you do, all you continue to do for our district.
Thank you.
Could I ask one clarifying question?
You may.
How much, I just want to say two things is that the AG report, the financial risk analysis does use the word reserve. So I understand that, you know, carry forward is used on the fund balance, but the AG itself is using the word reserve. So, but typically, how much do other districts have in carry forward?
There are districts that set goals either amongst administration or even with their board. Typical 3 to 4%. There are districts that have lots of money that set goals for 10%. It just depends on what's right for your district.
Okay, but other districts do have typically a carry forward of 3 to 4%.
That's their goals, yes.
Yes. And when I looked, when this financial risk analysis first came out, and, you know, you can look at all the districts surrounding us, I believe only one other district had as low of a carry forward as we did. And I just wonder if you could talk about the importance of having carry forward for the bonding capacity for them to be able to trust us to issue bonds for us to pay them back.
So yes, it is extremely important that we have a very healthy carry forward, because if in fact we are able to sell bonds in a few years, we want to prove to the people that are buying our bonds that we have the ability to pay them back first and foremost, but they look to see how healthy of a district we are. And our bond rating is based on our carry forward and our our fund balances and that type of thing. So it is extremely important that we keep that in mind, and especially if we are thinking about going out for additional bond capacity.
Thank you. I have one last comment. It was mentioned about the M&O, the maintenance of the plant operations. And I know that is definitely something we want to keep an eye on, but I completely understand the need. And Mr. Young, you're the pro in this right now, the need to make sure our buildings are functioning, the air conditioners are running. And I know Board Member Zimmerman stated that it doesn't necessarily impact the child education, but it really does. And so this is a whole thing. There's not just one thing that we can put our finger on and say, that is what we have to, there's just so many things here. And so again, I just want to reiterate, I appreciate all you guys have done for, bringing this to us. Go ahead.
Can I clarify just one thing on maintenance of operation or maintenance of plant operations? I just want to remind that includes a lot of our utility items too. It's not just working on buildings and doing maintenance, it's also running the buildings. So when we have big rate hikes with APS, when we have water rate increases, that's all in that same category. So that is a big hit to that amount too.
Thank you. And then
Sorry, just one question about that. Is that where we potentially could see the savings then from Verigy with,
That's the idea.
Vice President Kenyon,
yep.
just if I may, I have a couple thoughts.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think the other thing that's important for everybody to understand is we look to what other districts are doing, but also understand that many other districts get segregation funding. Today I spoke with Crystal and we looked that up, and for example, Cartwright, Crystal, do you remember what the number was? I want to say it was like an extra $4 million a year they get.
4.2 million roughly.
Right. 4.2, that's just basically a gift from the federal government that's left over from a law that was passed back in the 1960s. Buckeye Elementary gets some. A lot of districts do. The Liberty School District gets zero desegregation funding. So imagine if we go apples to apples, it's hard to do that sometimes when we set goals of 3 to 4% or more, because we're living on a much different payment basically per student than a lot of other districts in the state and the country get. So we always have to be cognizant of that and recognize that, other districts get a lot more money. Regardless of the size of your district, an extra $4 million is a nice gift that comes through. So it is important to look at that, and I encourage people to study how that's played out, because as I've looked at other districts and I've seen how they're spending that money, it's pretty interesting. And unfortunately, we don't qualify for that. We never have. No schools now can come onto that program. They just haven't removed any schools from that program, essentially. So there's still a lot of money that's been coming in year over year over year to districts for that. So that's another thing to think about as we continue to look at budgets and costs. We're also living in an age right now where, prices have gone up exponentially in the last couple of years, but that return from the state has not kept up with that. If we look at gas prices, if we look at food prices, if we look at construction materials, everything that happens has gone up immensely, and we're seeing this all over the place. You're seeing cities such as the city of Phoenix cut $10 million this year out of their public safety budget because the income or the tax income has not kept up with the exponential increase of costs. And so we're going to do everything we can to continue to balance this budget, keep it budget, put all the money into the classrooms. But I do agree with you, Vice President Kenyon, as well, that yes, we have to have classrooms and they have to be standing. We can't put all the money into the classroom and not put any money just to keep the walls and the roof and the air conditioner up. And we hear year after year about air conditioning not working at schools, not being adequate enough. That's because honestly, in the day, we probably as a district many years ago when these schools were built skimped on the air conditioner because it's all the money the district had. But it's very hard for a student to learn in a hot, humid environment. It's also very hard for teachers to stay focused and do that. And we've always done our very best to make sure that we balance that properly. Year over year, we have a very small district staff. it comes that way. It shows every year in every audit. Our district staff is very lean, and it's grown a lot over the last 8 years. Not so much in the last couple, but previous to that, it grew a whole lot, and we're still a very lean district in every audit when it comes to our admin costs and the money we are putting to the classroom. So I think we can move to item 1.4, which is the call for the public comment. And Vice President Kenyon, you've got a couple names, I believe.
Yes, I have two. So first, and just so the public knows, this is public comment specifically to what we're dealing with right now is the budget issue, okay? So the first one is Ms. Bailey Roscoe.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Bailey Roscoe, and I'm a Liberty District parent, community member, and stakeholder. One of the biggest things that keeps being mentioned is how we have not overspent or we are not over budget. Shelley Boggs, the county superintendent, has even wrote a letter to this effect. But this letter is increasingly misleading. As well, in fact, we are not over for payroll and vouchers. There are several categories the approved budget was, in fact, over. One thing that needs to be pointed out is this letter stated that was for fiscal year 25. What about prior to fiscal year 25? What about the reserves that you guys have mentioned tonight? Not actually called reserves, but the carry forward that was not included in the approved budgets. Where exactly was that money spent and on what? Why hasn't there been an audit done? Why did so many of the financial department quit? What were they being asked to do that was immoral, unethical, or potentially even criminal? This is mentioned does not include that the budgets have been approved in the past and that have been fact the district has gone significantly over, which is the definition of over budget and overspent. These approved budgets that were overspent, and several of you were on the board when those budgets were approved. You guys talk about how data matters. Data is important. Mr. Todd and Mr. Kenyon, you have both previously stated this. The data here also, in fact, matters. These budgets that you guys have been approved as a board, yet the superintendent, as well as several of you, have allowed to significantly be exceeded. How do we trust you guys to keep the approved budget going forward? These proposed cuts that you guys are making, and then you guys sit there approving vouchers without asking any questions as to where all this money is going. Another great point I want to make this evening is that the use of district funds for things that are not approved, such as getting an external counsel who is brought in on the outside of the district for Dr. Monroe's contract, writing a cease and desist letter for a recall for an individual board candidate. Mr. Kenyon, did you yourself retain this counsel as an individual and pay his or her firm with your own personal monies to do so? Because if not, that is a misuse of taxpayer dollars and is wasteful, but also illegal. It should not surprise me any longer at this point with the way that certain members of the board continue to abuse their power and misuse the funds, and that the public monies are being spent on things that are not only unethical, immoral, but downright criminal. I want to mention this letter was also sent trying to bully us out of utilizing our civil rights as members of the community.
All right, our next speaker is going to be Ashley Wright.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Wright, and I'm a parent in the district. While I appreciate adding a call to the public regarding the recently revised budget, it would have been better utilized if the agenda attachments had been available much sooner than the day before. Nevertheless, while looking at the budget revision in comparison to the adopted budget that was passed in July, it's almost as if there was very little attempt to stay within budget at all. There are numerous lines that are over budget, including plant operations as mentioned tonight. I'm not sure where the 33% decrease for student athletics also is coming from, but surely we aren't counting on that for next year. The administration budget would also be something to look at, considering if we hire for the open positions listed it will clearly go over budget for that as well. There seem to be much bigger issues here that clearly need more investigation and consideration. We've continually heard from families how important trust, transparency, and parental involvement are to them, and putting out this information the day before when many people wouldn't have the time to look at it, much less prepare to speak on it, doesn't show trust or transparency from the board.
Mr. President, that concludes. However, I would like to make a comment.
May.
So there was a personal attack directed at me in regards to suspicious behavior of me doing something unethical, criminal, or unmoral, and I will flat out refute all of that. I have not done anything criminal, unethical, or moral in my entire time on this board. And so that's all I'm going to say on that. So we can move on.
Thank you. If you could, really quick, I would also like to address a couple issues of correcting statements. There was a comment made that the district hired outside counsel. The district did not hire outside counsel to handle Dr. Monroe's issue, to handle any sort of election issues. The district is with the Arizona Trust. That is our legal firm. We are allowed to use any lawyer that's a part of the trust at any time under state statute. And just to be clear, as we did both of these, it was our counsel that's in the meeting tonight that recommended that we use the counsel that we did for both of the issues addressed. There was no additional cost spent on that. It's part of our agreement with the Arizona Trust, and that handles that. So again, there was no outside counsel. It is inside counsel, and the district can use any lawyer that's a part of the trust at any time. Okay, that concludes that. We'll move to item 2.1, adjournment of the public meeting. We'll show at 6:32 that meeting is adjourned. Do we need to take time really quick for a break, or shall we move right into the open meeting?
I think looks like we're all good to go ahead and move into the.
All right, we'll go to item 3.1. We're going to call the meeting of the Liberty Elementary School District General Board meeting to date to order. It's 6:32 p.m. on May 13, 2025. We're at the Jerry Roby District Facility. Board members present once again as Board Member Schmidt, Board Member Zimmerman, Vice President Kenyon, Board Member Cincioni, myself, Michael Todd, attending remotely. Move to the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll start back down with Board Member Schmidt, please, if you could lead us. Okay, we'll move on to item 3.3, the approval of the regular agenda.
Mr. President, motion to approve the regular agenda consistent with board policy BEDB and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the regular agenda. If there's no discussion, we'll move to a vote. I'll start with Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
And Board Member Cincioni.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. Our next item on the agenda is item 4.1, Superintendent Update, Attendance Enrollment Reports, Schools Newsletters, and Discipline Update. Dr. Mahorn.
I don't think either of these microphones are working very well. This one is.
It's on. You might just have to hold it a little close.
Could you bring up the discipline slide, please? Attached for your review are the newsletters from each building and the attendance reports. And if you go to the second slide, it's an update for you that I'm having a hard time reading. Here is the, as of 5/6/25, are the latest update for discipline referrals. If you see at the bottom, right now, we have about 2,010. That is up about a little over 100 from last year at almost exactly this exact same date. I will say I am not surprised because the biggest reason is this year schools are actually, I would say, keeping the data, and difference is no school can delete any referrals either. And so once a referral has been put in by a teacher, a parapro, anyone, no one has access to delete. I don't have access. No one has access to delete a referral. So this is actually a true picture of referrals. So we are up from where we were last year, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. We see the data, and it's our job to look at that data, see where our hot spots are. It's hotspots for schools and hotspots for individual, maybe grade levels at certain buildings as well. I know President Todd asked for a more in-depth report, which we will provide in June as well.
President Todd, if I may.
You may.
Dr. Mahorna, is that discipline update, is that attached in our? I don't see it in here.
No, it wasn't attached. I thought
Okay,
it was
all right.
attached, but I can send it to you as well with these numbers.
Yes, if
as
you
well.
could, but
Yeah, absolutely.
that's all I had right now.
Absolutely.
Mr. Todd,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask a question?
You may.
Okay. Two things. One about the discipline. I think the assumption, though, is that, we did change the discipline matrix to basically have more referrals, right? And make more offenses referral worthy. So the expectation was that it was going to increase, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Could we, as part of this agenda item is the April attendance average? Would we be able to pull that up? I just wanted to highlight is this for April? It's the April one. April 24, 25 attendance average. Oh. Maybe it's the monthly average. I apologize. I just wanted to highlight our schools. All of our schools were above 90% in April. And I know that our principals probably put in a lot of work to ensure our students were here for state testing. And not just our principals, our teachers, everybody on staff, that I'm sure that took a concerted effort. So I just wanted to highlight that and thank them, because we know how important it is to have that data. And we hadn't had all of our schools above 90% since October. So it was just a thank you. I know that takes an effort and was needed during the month of testing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one question. I think I saw in a board report, I think we have a job fair coming up.
Correct. May 31st.
Okay. I'm just curious. We normally have those considerably earlier. Is there a reason that we're doing it so late this year?
We had 2 job fairs scheduled, February 26th and March 5th. HR did schedule both of them. However, through Dr. Monroe, he told us that at the time, Vice President Zimmerman wanted them canceled. So HR did have them.
That is not true.
That's what we were told.
Okay, well, can I speak to it since you're now accusing me of saying something I haven't?
If you said it's not true, I think that's good, but you can certainly say something if you'd like.
Thank you. What I asked Dr. Monroe is that if he ensured that he knew what the staffing needed to be, because we were in such a budget situation, that he needed to ensure that he knew what staff he needed. And if he was comfortable with that, then certainly move forward. But at no means, as a board member, do I have any control to cancel any job fair. That is absolutely not mine. I asked a question. He made that decision.
Okay, thank you. it's not, regardless, it's a little unnerving that we had a couple of them canceled, regardless of how that came to be. I'm just curious how that was and wasn't sure. Okay, we'll move on to item 4.2. This is our retirees, Westside Impact Outstanding Principal of the Year, Westside Impact Teachers of the Year, and Classified Pride Award recognitions. Dr. Mahorn.
I have to come around this side. So this is the reason many of you are here tonight. We have a couple different groups to recognize. Our first group we're going to recognize tonight are 2025 retirees. Every year, the Liberty Elementary School District recognizes retirees at the end of the year. This year, we recognize 11 individuals. Our first person is Salvador Berber from Transportation. Doesn't look like Salvador's here with a packed room. I can't tell. So if somebody's back there, make sure they make their way up here. I know our next person is Alma Cano, and I know she's not here. And I saw Connie Crowley. Oh, there she is. I think start here. Or you can start wherever you want, Connie. Yeah, yeah, wherever you want to start. Our next person is Jeffrey Doherty from Estrella Mountain. Our next person is Stacy Hill from Las Brisas Academy. Buddy. Our next person is Karina Matsura from HR here at District Office. You go here first. Our next person is Edward Moss from Maintenance. Our next person, Patricia Samble from Estrella Mountain. All right. Gina Sanchez from Liberty Elementary. Corinne Solis from Transportation. Last but not least, James Sprague from Transportation. Well, even those who are not here, will make sure that they get their gift. So our next award goes to our West Side Impact Outstanding Principal of the Year. Oh, how about we take a picture before I just keep going? Now we can move on. I don't go so fast. Okay. Although she already got her award, I still want her to come up for a picture. Our West Side Impact Outstanding Principal of the Year for this year was Mrs. Holly Murray from Liberty Elementary School. Okay, so the West Side Impact Teacher of the Year, teacher recipients are nominated by their peers. Each campus named one certified employee as the West Side Impact Teacher of the Year. Certified staff includes teachers, interventionists, counselors, special education teacher, school psych. These following recipients received a plaque at the West Side Impact Teacher of the Year breakfast on Tuesday, May 6th. The following criteria was considered when nominating: a master teacher, somebody that demonstrated teacher leadership, supportive to colleagues, always growing and improving professionally, evidence of continuous student learning, demonstrated teacher leadership, always growing and improving professionally. The teachers of this year are, first one is Scott Claff from Blue Horizons. Oh, you go. Start either way you want. Second one is Amy Johnson from Estrella Mountain Elementary. Congratulations again. Celeste Gutierrez from Freedom Elementary. She's not here. And she's not here this evening. The next one is Jeanette Garcia from Las Brisas Academy. I don't see her either. I do see Erica Lilienthal from Liberty Academy. Lilienthal. Oh, and her fan club. Little fan club. Congratulations again. Hannah Gonzalez Tiope from Rainbow Valley. Congratulations again. And last but not least, Nicole Paduano from Westar Elementary. Don't see either. Okay, our last group that we're going to recognize. Okay. So I think this is our last group, the Classified Pride Awards. Each year, schools and district departments recognize a classified staff member who exemplifies a strong supporter of the Liberty School District schools, demonstrates initiative in the improvement of the individual site and/or district, display a genuine concern for and effectively communicate with students, staff, and patrons, exhibit a high degree of willingness to assist other staff members, contribute to a positive staff morale, maintain a high standard of professionalism in all job-related tasks, and strive for personal and professional growth, and exemplify the pride of Liberty School District. The classified pride recipients are, from Blue Horizons, Ricardo Rodriguez. From Estrella Mountain Elementary, Emily Gomez. From Freedom Elementary, Maria Toledo. From Las Brisas Academy, Brianna Giles. From Liberty, Carissa Sherman. From Rainbow Valley, Jessica Solis. From Westar Elementary, Stasia Albayo. From the Maintenance Department, Ignacio Valenzuela. From IT, Hunter DeVries. From Transportation, James Harris. From District Office, Jillian Lucas. And from LEAP, Karen Bruni. All right, this will be a lot for a picture. Congratulations again to everyone.
Okay, while we reset members and members of the audience, I just want to take an opportunity to recognize myself, these outstanding employees and retirees of our district. The retirees, we will miss you greatly. We hope you always remember us and even consider coming back as substitutes or volunteers. You've been a huge part of our district and we appreciate it. To all the award winners, you are absolutely what makes this job fun and so great to be able to do it and say you're part of our team. Just as a bit of housekeeping, those may not want to stay for the
Member
rest of
Todd?
the meeting.
Just so you know,
But-
there's a lot of commotion right now with a lot of people exiting.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was trying to tell them.
If you will, I can update you once the majority of people have exited and we can resume.
Okay.
Okay, President Todd, I think we're probably good to continue.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.1, governing board updates. Board Member Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you, President Todd. I just have a couple things that I want to mention that I did since the last board meeting, and then something that's happening tomorrow. Since the previous board meeting, I was able to attend the Rainbow Valley Student Leadership event that they put on. It was a really nice morning meeting students from the school, seeing their leadership. We were greeted at the door by a young man who shook our hands and introduced himself and held the doors as he escorted us to the room. Everybody was super welcoming, and it was just a really, really nice way to spend a few hours that morning. I will say that one of my favorite things was at the end, they had all of the student leaders parade through campus while the rest of the school stood outside and like clapped for them. And it was just such a really like heartwarming feeling to walk through the campus, high-fiving all the kids. They were all so excited. It was just a great morning. So I wanted to thank Rainbow Valley for inviting us and including us in that morning. And then the second thing has not happened yet, but I just want to say that I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning. I'm going to Blue Horizons, where I was asked to come speak as a career day speaker, not about this, but about what I do during the day. And I got to put together my slideshow the last couple days and get ready for that. So I'm super excited to go talk to the 5th grade students about science and get them excited and hopefully encourage some of them to become scientists in the future. So thank you for that invitation.
Great, thank you. Board Member Zimmerman.
Hi. Yes, I just had a couple things. First, I just wanted to recognize our teachers. It was a Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and the district would not exist without them, and the amount of time and energy that they put in every single day and on weekends and after hours. For me, it doesn't go unnoticed, and just want to say that I appreciate you. And as someone who taught before, I know what a difficult job it is. And, what a great responsibility you also have as we entrust our children to you every single day. And I know that you don't take that responsibility lightly. So I just appreciate all of our teachers and just wanted to say thank you. I was able to attend the Westside Impact Recognition Breakfast last week, which was a really special event as they were recognized here at the board meeting, but to see all of the kind of West Side districts and all of their teachers and principals being recognized, it was an honor to be able to attend and to celebrate those selected from our district. I also was able to attend the Rainbow Valley Leadership Day. I appreciate the invitation from Ms. Cagle. It was a really unique event, I think, to Rainbow, and I loved that, we had breakfast and the students would come around and ask us if we'd like anything else, and they would clear our plates. It was a really special, just a special morning and a very unique signature program, which was nice to get to experience. They had several different kind of presentations and speakers, and there was one that really stuck out to me. It was an 8th grader, and one of her first lines, I asked if I could share it at the board meeting because I thought it was very impactful for kind of the, situation that the district is currently facing. And her name is Valeria. And again, I asked her permission, and her quote that really stuck out to me was, "Leadership isn't just about being in charge. It's about making choices that positively impact myself and those around me." That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Vice President Kenyon.
Thank you, President Todd. I was also able to attend the Westside Impact Teacher and Principal Award, and that was my first one I've been able to get to, and it was a great event. I concur with Board Member Zimmerman. We have such great staff in our district, and they do so much for our kids, and it's wonderful where we can recognize, kind of let Liberty shine in the West Valley, and I think we did that, and we'll continue to do that. I did want to say just a quick update. I was, hopefully everybody's been able to notice that we've gotten our electric buses in and they've been put in service for the most part. And so I was able to talk to a couple of the bus drivers and just how things are going with them. And it seemed like they were really happy with them. They are quieter, they're nicer. However, when you get something new, there's always little bugs, little kinks that got to be worked out. And I asked, so are they actual quieter? And he goes, well, the bus is, the kids aren't. So we're working on that, but it's great to see those finally in service after all this time. The other thing I wanted to mention was I just wanted to congratulate all the graduates. There's going to be a lot of graduates happening next week throughout our district, and of course outside our district as well, all over the place. And that's going to be a great time for a lot of families. There may be some tears. There's some 8th graders leaving us, and that's always hard to see them grow up and go, and they grow up so quick. But I just wanted to throw that congratulations out there for all their hard work, and congratulations to the teachers for surviving a year with these kids. And I know that it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot, and teachers put in a lot into these kids. They really do. They instill a lot in these kids. And so I want to say thank you to the teachers. Congratulations to the kids and the parents on the graduations next week.
Board Member Cirincione.
Nothing to update this time, Mr. President.
Great. Okay, I just have a couple things. I too attended the West Valley Impact Teacher Awards at Grand Canyon University. It's a fantastic event to see so many great teachers from our district be recognized. As we continue to grow, our numbers come up. I've watched us move closer and closer to the center and the front of that event, and that's exactly where we sat this year. Again, my heartfelt congratulations to all the teachers who won that award, as well as those who are retiring this year. I try to say that while everybody was moving out tonight. It was a little noisy, but retirees, we appreciate everything you've done. Please remember us. You're welcome to come back. We'd love to see you on our campuses still. To our award-winning teachers and staff, it's amazing what you do, and it's such an honor to stand before you and stand before the public and say that we represent this district. You do such a great job. You make it quite easy, actually. So I want to thank you for that. To touch a little bit more on Board Member Kenyon's information about the EV buses, yes, they are on the road. It's exciting time. I had the time to meet with Ms. Dondi and Dr. Mahorn and Ms. Camerata. We went over with a decibel meter and tested the buses to see exactly which was noisier. In all aspects of operation, the EV buses were considerably quieter. As you hear them around the neighborhood, I think it's important to know just some awareness. You're going to hear a noise when they're at slow speed. That's a federal requirement. It's the same noise that EV trash trucks make. It's the same noise that EV fire trucks make. That's a federal requirement. It's a different noise. So for a little bit, you're going to hear that, and it's probably going to stand out to you if you hear those buses. It is quieter than the diesel buses, as we took a decibel meter all the way around and did it in idle mode, slow speed mode, and then tried to do a little bit faster speed. It is different, and my neighborhood has an EV trash truck that's currently been going through it. First time I heard it, I thought, what was that? They're all slightly different, but similar, and it's just a new noise. So eventually you will become a little more in tune to that, but that slow speed is because the buses are so quiet when they're going down the road, people won't hear them, and our friends in the EV auto world learned that, as several people got hit by EV cars when they first came out before they required that audible noise. So it's a safety feature. They are quieter, and thanks to Dondi and her staff for grabbing some buses and putting them on the road and checking them out for us there over there at the transportation facility. So thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 6.1, which is our public comment section. I'll ask Vice President Kenyon to call the members a reminder that you'll have 3 minutes. And at the end of your 3 minutes, the microphone will be muted. Vice President Kenyon, please call the first.
Okay, so first public comment we have is Bailey Roscoe.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Bailey Roscoe, and I come to you as a community member, a parent of 2 students, and a stakeholder. I come before you tonight to talk about the sad state of tonight's agenda, where yet again, many district employees, including teachers and psychologists, are leaving the district. Tonight, we saw in Ms. Mosier's presentation that we have 194 teachers in the district. I show, as of recent board documents, 61 resignations and non-contract renewals, which is approximately 1/3 of our teachers who will not be coming back to the district next year. What is the district's plan for this huge disparity of staffing? We have seen our district struggle with subs and are going to be using ESI SubSource for subs going forward. But we've already seen this year where class sizes have had to be combined. There have been huge class sizes with sizes of approximately 40 students or more due to drastic resignations from teachers. What's the plan? We're going to have exorbitant class sizes going forward, a bunch of subs so that students are being taught inconsistently, or are we going to have approximately 1/3 of our teachers being emergency certified teachers who have no formal background in education and are only required to have a bachelor's degree in any subject? Would you feel comfortable having your child being taught by emergency certified teachers? I do want to state that I have an amazing respect for emergency certified teachers. Some of them are amazing, but most of them do not have the proper qualifications for teaching, especially students with IEPs, students on the spectrum, and those with neurodivergent issues. This, along with large class sizes, opens the possibility for a rise in incidents in the classroom and the ability for those incidents to get significantly out of hand quickly. With the district as a whole being as dramatically understaffed with additional employees such as counselors, assistant principals, and other faculty, we can potentially expect more dangerous situations to arise, such as the recent incident at Freedom, where students were released into a dangerous situation where there were several individuals on campus with a gun and other weapons instead of going into lockdown, which is protocol for a situation with a gun. It has been stated several times these people are leaving for not liking the changes the district is implementing because of performance reviews and the removal of restorative justice. But does that still hold when the last count there were 116 student-related employees who had left the district, with several more on tonight's agenda? Many of them are not even teachers, therefore the performance argument doesn't even hold water. Lastly, I want to mention that several members of the community went out of their way to try to harass many of us mothers at a free public Mother's Day event, trying to claim that the event was there for the recall efforts. They went so far as to try to shut it down by filing complaints, which was not only disgusting, but a complete mockery of our amazing day to celebrate us as mothers. A day that we wanted to just spend time as moms with our kids.
Madam, your time's up. Our next speaker is Carly Wright.
Good evening. I'm speaking on behalf of a concerned parent. Good evening. I'm not here in person tonight because the championship softball game was rescheduled for the exact same time as this meeting. The irony speaks for itself. Parents should not have to choose between supporting their children and participating in district decision making. But that's exactly what happened tonight. It's a perfect example of the disorganization and lack of consideration that families in this district are growing tired of. Recently, I sent an email to Dr. Mahorn and the board outlining a clear, reasonable proposal to address serious ongoing issues in our athletic programs. The response I received was disappointing. It offered no plan, no timeline, and no real acknowledgement of the urgency behind the concerns. Let me be clear for what those concerns are. Athletic directors are operating without the most basic support. No first aid kits, no streamlined process for requesting changes, no ear at the district level to hear legitimate scheduling concerns. Field conditions are unsafe. I've had a direct exchange with Bob Young, who has assured me there was a plan moving forward. That's a start, but we need more than words. We need a timeline and visible progress. Communication is failing. Game changes and schedule shifts are happening without adequate notice. This is not in the schools. The breakdown is happening at the district level. Families are being left in the dark until last minute, and that's unacceptable. There's no effective contingency. I can't speak. I'm so sorry, guys. There's no effective planning. Weather delays or conflict shouldn't throw the entire system into chaos, and yet principals and ADs are forced to navigate unnecessary red tape just to find alternative fields. That's a systematic failure. Team placements lack logic and fairness. An 8th grader should never be placed on a B team. If a school has one team, it should play at the A level, period. That's not a fairness issue. It's a development one. These are not isolated complaints. They represent a pattern of neglect that directly affects student safety, morale, and experience, and it's time for the district to take responsibility. The solution I proposed was simple. Replace the current closed-door calendar meeting with an open forum that includes parents, athletic directors, principals, and champs teachers, the people who are actually doing the work and living with these decisions. That proposal has not been acted on, but let me be clear. We're not asking. We're expecting change. There's a group of parents ready to help, and frankly, you should welcome the support. If leadership is overextended, then let us take on part of the burden. We're already driving kids to 4 sports a year, juggling practices, games, work, and apparently competing with board meetings. We are invested, and we are not going away. This district owes our students safe, well-run, developmentally appropriate athletic programs. What they got this year was not that, and we will not settle for another year of the same. It's time to act, not to acknowledge, not to deflect, to act. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Heather Finn.
Thank you, board members, and thank you, President Todd. My name is Heather Finn. The public needs to be aware that there are certain board members and their supporters that think it's okay to dismiss, insult tax-paying families, whether it's in person or on social media, who don't have a child currently in the system. I don't know, since now my daughter will be graduating, I just found out that I will become just a stakeholder. And according to certain board members and their PAC-funded supporters, stakeholders have no vote, no opinion, and cannot question what is happening. And when I asked about the recall, I got a non-answer, and then I got, you don't have kids in the system. So, what do we do about this? Is this about the children, or is this about an agenda at this stage? Because it's starting to look more about an agenda. I don't know, but there is a board member that sends their children out of district. So does that board member only have, is she just a stakeholder now? Because it seems like she has a huge part of saying what's being brought into this district. Instead of wasting time recalling Chris Kenyon and bribing people with bouncy houses, free pizza, and ice cream, let's find a board member that actually wants to send their children to the district. And since I have time, I will address what was just said about, this was on the West Valley Family website on social media. A volunteer group called For Liberty Kids is organizing a petition to recall Chris Kenyon from the Liberty Elementary School Board. They will be hosting a Power of the Mom community event on May 10th at Bodavita Park, and we know and then it lists all the reasons why they want to. So right before me, there was a citizen in our community that said that that was not why that event was happening, and that is a lie.
Our next speaker is Megan Keenan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Megan Canan. I reside in district with 1 current and 2 former students. I am disheartened as I have heard this board go back and forth on more positions to be eliminated from the education service team. This team has already been dismantled as the team was not offered contract renewals with the departure of Natasha Camp. The team has already lost a few positions due to budget cuts, and there is talk about cutting more. One thing that has been said is no other district has a director of school effectiveness, but that has been found to be untrue. Other districts have this position, but may call it something slightly different, as you will find with many other positions within districts compared to others. Here are a few of the districts that have been found by many parents that have the same or similar titles. Kyrene District, Executive Director of School Effectiveness. Pendergast, District of School Improvement. Tolleson Union, Executive Director of Leadership. Creighton, Director of School Improvement and Accountability. Legacy Charter, Director of School of Improvement. This position is critical in assisting our students in schools. They and all of our education service team have played an instrumental role in assisting our schools with improving their letter gradings we receive. We keep talking about not removing things that directly affect the students, their education, and the schools directly, but by entertaining the possibility to eliminate yet another ed services position is detrimental to our students and to this district. If we continue to dissect all positions and eliminate more already established positions. It creates an uncertainty for employees if their job is secure, and also sets a precedent for people looking at potentially coming to this district that they may not have job security. We are hurting ourselves more than we already are since appointing Michael Todd back as board president. I urge you all to really look hard at this decision and truly reflect on what is in the best interest of the district before you say your votes. I urge you to truly look deep down at your morals and stop voting based on how other members will perceive you and how they think you should vote. Be your own person and a voice for the students, staff, and community members can count on.
Our next speaker is Susan Cheatham.
Thank you, President Todd and Vice President Kenyon and the board. Thank you. For the record, that this district, well, the board of 2324 that has been accused for or being sued for a sexual assault is a lie. That accusation regarding the assault that's been addressed happened 20 years ago. The principal on watch was Nancy Bogart. And regarding the open meeting violations, there are some open meeting violations filed with the AG's office. Most of them have already been cleared by the AG, and the last remaining are in the process of being dropped. In each incident, the district had a very respectful legal counsel advising them during those actual meetings, so the filings do not appear to be going anywhere. Now, this district under Michael Todd and Chris Kenyon, they approved a new school for the district with limited funding. They got a new transportation facility, 10 new buses, 4-day school week, increased the growth of the students month after month. The discipline now is strict and aligned with state statute that requires parental notification and consequences for all discipline matters, including the classroom. Under Michael Todd's leadership, teachers have one of the best benefits plan they have ever had. The district has not overspent their budget this year. The budget is fine for this year. The district under the state law is required to create a future budget based off proposed growth and enrollment of students. This year, the growth is not as high as anticipated. This has caused the district to review everything to meet the budget. Every year, the board has to do this. This is nothing new. Thank you for your work, ladies. Superintendent Boggs stated that at no point in fiscal year 2025, Liberty has not overexpended their expenditure budget. Her letter was fact and not misleading at all. Teachers are paid $2,500 more than the state average. They even added $1,800 per student to the classroom last year. And I want to say thank you for getting rid of the political agenda of DEI, CRT, and SEL. The Liberty School District is thriving despite those who want to destroy a good thing. Thank you.
All right, our last speaker is going to be Gina Herman.
Good evening, board, and thank you so much. My name is Jean Herman. I cannot believe we're at an end of another school year. Wow, the time goes so fast. It's unbelievable. And there's so much excitement with so many families with graduating students and new students coming into the school system. It's really kind of neat to meet those people in public. So this board has been through a lot this year, much change regarding CRT, SEL, DEI, things, those changes were made just in time to align not only with the state statutes, but also with the federal implementation of these things. So, wow, you guys got a lot done. You accomplished amazing things in a very short period of time. And it's really evident that you are working well together now. You're starting to learn how each other operates. And it's really nice to see that you're focusing on the matters at hand and the important things that need to be done. So that's been really so wonderful to see. So Maricopa County School Superintendent Shelley Boggs put out that letter that at no time has Liberty been identified as having an over expenditure in its budget in 2025. And here we are talking about 2026 already. So the board's done a great job of working together despite a ridiculous amount of opposition and criticism from a disruptive group of supposedly concerned individuals. There was a young lady who spoke a few weeks ago in public comment about bullying, and you guys got right on it. And one of President Todd's remarks just before the agenda had wrapped up was that was immediately to be taken care of, and bullying will not be tolerated anymore. So that was really heartwarming and gut-wrenching at the same time to hear that young lady speak. And I know that is in the forefront as well, and appreciate you guys handling that and getting on it. So clearly you're all working together really well, and a strong chain's unbroken, which is really nice. So going forward, lies and deceit and division and backbiting, it's just going to be plain ugly, and it's not going to benefit anyone. I just wanted to read a little bit of scripture, Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good deeds and moral excellence and recognize and honor and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And Peter 3:14. But even in case you should suffer for the sake of righteousness, you are blessed, happy, and envied. Do not dread or be afraid of the threats or disturbed by their opposition. And President Todd and Vice President Kenyon, we see what's going on, and God sees it too. So you have been just so upright and outstanding as a board member and a human.
Sorry, ma'am, your time's up.
Okay, that completes our public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 7.1. Is there anything wish to be pulled?
I'd like to pull 7.3 and 7.11, please.
Okay, 7.3 and 7.11.
Oh, I apologize. It looks like the numbers changed. I apologize, President Todd. It would be 7.3 and 7.10.
All right, 7.3 and 7.10. 7.10. Okay. All right, anything else? All right, hearing none. I'll take a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items 7.3 and 7.10.
Mr. President, motion to approve the consent agenda minus 7.3 and 7.10.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion by Board Member Trincioni, second by Board Member Zimmerman. There's no discussion. We'll take the vote. Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Trincioni.
Aye.
I'm also, and I will show that that motion approved 5 yes, 0 no. All right, we'll move on to item 7.3. Board Member Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. I just want to, address my concern that there are 5 psychologists that declined their renewal. So that means that at this time, we have 1 psychologist that we've employed or are employing for the following year. And as I discussed in the budget prioritization, how important it was for us to not have to contract, because by having to contract these people, it's going to cost the district my estimates between $70,000 and $80,000, maybe on, or possibly even more than that. And so when you think about, you're going to have to pay that on top of what we budgeted. So we're talking, if I'm saying a round number, that's $500,000 that this board now needs to account for, because legally we have to have psychologists. If we do not have these, we're going to open ourselves up to lawsuit after lawsuit with special education. And so as a parent of a special education student and understanding the laws with special education, to me, this is personally very concerning.
I don't know.
Thank you.
It's actually going to cost us $156,000 if we have to contract for a psych.
Right, but I'm talking about the difference between what we pay them and that contract. So I believe that their contracts were around 80,000, but that doesn't include benefits. So that's why I use that number. I'm talking about in addition to what, but yes, each one.
Yeah, so, I mean, a contracted psych will be 156. So that, I mean, we talk about budget, 156.
Right. And when we talk about the budget, which I assume will happen in June, we're going to have to think about this because
Guys, we need to stay on topic with the agenda here, please. Okay, any other comments for 7.3? All right, hearing none, we'll take a motion in a second to approve 7.3.
I motion to approve 7.3.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, motion by Board Member Zimmerman, a second by Board Member Schmidt to approve 7.3.
President Todd,
Approval. Yes.
can you just hold on for 1 second, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Who made the motion?
I did.
Zimmerman. Second was by Schmidt.
Thank you.
If there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. Board Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman?
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon?
Aye.
Board Member Scincioni?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show the motion approved on a 5 yes, 0 no vote. Our next item is 7.10, approval of required documents to participate in the Project Momentum Grant, System School Grant for school year 25-26.
If staff could just talk about how much we are being issued for fiscal year 26 and what we receive in Project Momentum for fiscal year 25.
Yes, I can let you know that. So for FY26, we've been notified that Project Momentum will be a grand total of $162,000. In FY25, we received roughly $980,000. So it is significantly less in the new year. The one positive thing to that is that the Department of Education is going to now pay for our principal partners for select schools, and that will not come out of our grant money.
But it is significantly less money.
Correct.
And Westar and Estrella are not getting any of that money.
That's correct. It's for very specific schools now.
So again, as we move into the budget, I just want us to be very cognizant that this is a big jump or a big decrease that we're going to need to make sure we account for.
All right, any other discussions? All right, hearing none, we'll take a motion in a second.
I motion to approve 7.10.
I have the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Zimmerman, a second by Board Member Scincioni. If there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. Board Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman?
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon?
Aye.
Board Member Scincioni?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show the motion pass on a 5 yes, 0 no vote. All right, next on our agenda item, bear with me here, guys. We're going to move on to item 8.1. That'll be a discussion, consideration to approve the preschool primary resource. Ms. Erica Daniel.
Good evening, Mr. President and Governing Board members. It is my pleasure to present the Pre-K Adoption Committee recommendations for your consideration. The district administration recommends adopting Ready to Advance as the primary instructional resource for preschool. The Pre-K Adoption Committee, composed of administrators, coaches, community members, and preschool teachers, met 5 times over the last 5 months. All meetings were open to the public with materials such as agendas, documents, minutes, and video recordings accessible via board docs. The committee accomplished the following tasks: developed a rubric for evaluating pre-K instructional resources, selected the top 2 resources for a 60-day public review and teacher pilot,
trained committee teachers to pilot both resources in the classrooms, and evaluated the resources and made a final recommendation for adoption of approval. Ready to Advance is a comprehensive preschool resource. Through 10 thoughtfully designed thematic units, it fosters early literacy and domain-specific knowledge. During the teacher pilot evaluation, Ready to Advance met the following criteria. Alignment fully aligns with the Arizona Early Learning Standards. Research validated by evidence-based research. Content appropriate for the subject, age, developmental needs, supporting differentiated instruction to enrich, extend, remediate, or intervene as required. And technology incorporates current, relevant technology to enhance interactive learning both in and out of the classroom. District administration fully supports the Pre-K Adoption Committee's recommendation to approve Ready to Advance as the primary preschool instructional resource. And questions, and I also have a teacher that piloted the program here in case you have some specific questions I cannot answer.
Members, any questions?
I have a question. First, thank you so much for the committee for meeting 5 times. That is the commitment, and for piloting it in your classroom. We appreciate that you did that legwork. How much is the cost of the curriculum?
Right now, it's just estimated around $30,000. We don't delve into the cost until the board approves the primary adopted resource. The funding sources for the program, though, is a grant, which is the IDEA grant, which will cover $20,000, and then the rest will be taken out of the preschool tuition.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question.
You may go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was your name, ma'am? Is it Erica? If you would. So when you were testing out and piloting these programs, what were some of the things that stood out to you to made you think this was the best one for our school?
So I teach the developmental preschool classroom, so I have to look at it from a different lens. However, the first one that we piloted was Frog Street, and for my students, I had to look at if it was developmentally appropriate for them, because for my kiddos, they may be the age 3, but they're developmentally, they may be age 1. So I had to really delve in and look at it as if it was appropriate for them. And for Frog Street, although it had a lot of plus, I looked at how my students interacted with that, and it was not well. For one, a student was afraid of some of the videos that we had to use, the technology, and I had to turn it off for the fear of causing him stress or trauma. So with that one, I looked at it, to delve into the more academic portion, it was good. However, it was a bit higher. There wasn't a lot of leeway for differentiation with that one. However, with our Ready to Advance, there was a wide range of differentiation. For example, they had the books that were for non-disabled peers. However, if you scroll down on our electronic, we had more literature that was more lower level based, differentiated for the students, and it met their needs more than our Frog Street.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Mr. President, if I may.
You may.
Yeah, I want to thank the committee. It's a lot of commitment whenever you're dealing with trying to figure out a new curriculum, a new resource to use. All these, it just takes a lot of time and effort. And then obviously implementing in classroom is never easy. It's something new, and especially when you got to try different ones and different tactics. So thank you for that. For Ms. Daniels, so we had it out there for a 60-day public review. Did we have any feedback on that?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Are members, any other questions? All right, hearing none, this is an action item. We'll take a motion and a second to approve the preschool primary resource.
I motion to approve the preschool primary resource of Ready to Advance.
I do have a second.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Zimmerman, a second by Board Member Cincioni to advance the item of 8.1 and approve the preschool primary resource. There's no further discussion. We'll take a vote. Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Scincioni.
Aye.
I'm also, and I will show that motion passed on a 5 yes, 0 no vote.
Thank
Our
you.
next item of business is 8.2, discussion consideration to approve fiscal year 2024-25 annual expenditure budget revision. Members, this is the approval of what was presented in the work session. I think most of our questions were asked then. We can have limited discussion moving forward if you need to. Otherwise, we can take a motion in a second.
Mr. President, I just have a few comments.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. You know, there's been a lot of discussion tonight and over the last couple months about being overspent and whether we're not overspent. And I think, you know, what we need to consider is we are not in the red, right? We're not in a deficit. That is a correct statement. However, I think we should question is, have we managed the money well that we have? And I think that's where my concern comes in, is in the Auditor General's financial risk assessment, they labeled us at high risk in 3 of 7 categories. So there are some concerns there. And, you know, in the last 2 years, you know, we have used $3.5 million of carry forward money to not allow us to have a healthy carry forward for emergencies, for bonding capacity. So, you know, we are not in a deficit. We are not in the red. That is a correct statement. But I think what we need to look at is how we are managing our money. And I think that that is something that we need to look at. And again, M&O would have been in the red had we not made a transfer. So yes, we had money in other funds that we were able to balance the overall budget. So there are things that we can work towards as a district and as a board as we move into fiscal year 26. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Anything else, or can we take a motion?
Mr. President, I'd just make a motion to approve fiscal year 24-25 annual expenditure budget revision.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, a motion by Vice President Kenyon, a second by Board Member Schmidt. With no further discussion, we'll take the vote. This is to approve item 8.2, the discussion and consideration to approve the fiscal year 2024-25 annual expenditure budget revision. There's no further. We've got the motion. We have the second. We'll take the vote. Board Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Board Member Zimmerman.
Aye.
Vice President Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Scincioni.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that item 8.2 is approved with a 5 yes, 0 no vote. Next item on the agenda is item 9.1, board comments or agenda topic requests.
Mr. President, I have a few.
Okay.
I would like to see an agenda item for a plan that the district creates to create a carry forward, and how the district plans to do that. How do they plan to create a carry forward, and how do they plan to demonstrate that transparently to the public, and how it will be accounted for? I'd also like to ensure that the board has the climate survey answers and comments from all 3 groups that it's given to, and I'd like it to be an agenda item as it has been previously, as it wasn't last year. I would also, I've requested it before, but the staffing for next year, and including where we are on important district and site administrators hiring that are vital to student and teacher success. Previously, I also asked for the amount of FOIAs that we have and what the status of them are. And I've also asked to have an agenda item for the board to discuss whether the district should complete the risk action plan that was brought up by the AG when they did the presentation on March 4th. Thank you.
Okay, we will get all those on the agenda. Anything else, members? Okay, I have asked staff to put together a report. I think it's just to refresh it. I know they're working on it. It takes some time to get some of these reports put together, but the per campus costs. I would also like to get a breakdown of all the signature programs and their costs. That's been discussed as well. I know they're working on that. It's just a reminder for everybody to know that that's coming forward. So those are the only two I have. There eventually will get on. We just need to give staff the time to compile the data and give us accurate information on that. So those are moving forward. If there's nothing else, then we can look at upcoming board meetings. We've got one coming up this Monday, May 19th. It'll be a work study session to go over more policy revision. We've got a Saturday, May 24th. Members, I believe that's actually Memorial Day weekend, so I think that one's going to probably fall off the agenda. But we do have Saturday, June 7th reserved if we need it. I'm thinking we're going to need that one. Again, that'll be mostly Chapter 5 of the new trust policies. And then our regular governing board meeting is not till Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. So with that, we can move to adjournment of the meeting. The time is now 7:41 p.m. Our business is concluded. We'll show the meeting adjourned at 7:41. Thank you very much.